Plus One Forward, the podcast powered by the Apocalypse, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games using or inspired by the Apocalypse engine. I'm your MC, Rich, and I'm joined by my guest, Ian Williams of Flatland Games. Hey, Ian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Ian, I'm curious, how long have you been playing PBTA games, and what was your gateway?
My gateway was actually Apocalypse World. I can't remember. I bought it shortly after it came out, probably 6 months after it came out. A good buddy of mine is actually Brett Gillen, who did the Faceless playbook, which is always so popular.
Yes, I know the Faceless.
Right.
One of the names of the Faceless is Orc.
Yep.
With a K, so Brett has my heart forever.
I was looking at it, and I was kind of like, I've been interested in Indian story games, but I'm not really of the scene, right? And I don't say that pejoratively. It's just very much like a side thing for me. I'm not heavily involved. And my interest was kind of piqued by it because I like post-apocalyptic stuff, and I asked him, without knowing that he was, that he'd made the Faceless, which was so popular, and I'd seen some stuff on it, so I was like, hey, this looks really cool. He was like, oh yeah, no, it's definitely cool. You should totally get it. And I did. And I ran it with some friends here, and it really went well with my group, who are mostly trad games and stuff like that. And I've been hooked ever since. I love Apocalypse World and the hacks and everything like that.
Oh, can you remember what was the first apocalypse? Was the first apocalypse like a snowpocalypse, or was it barren wasteland, all Mad Maxy?
It was barren wasteland, but we went with the players went with kind of like a psychic apocalypse. Right? Ooh. Where basically people's brains short-circuited because this meteor of a psychic reactive material, I'm trying to remember, it's been several years, had crashed into the earth, right? But in addition to the physical devastation, people just started bleeding out of their noses and ears and died in the streets and stuff like that. The byproduct was I have one player who's extremely into zombies, even though that's slightly passé now. Is it slightly passé? I feel like it is. And
I think it's gone so far over it came back around again, and it's still cool, I think.
Yeah, he's so into zombies, and he was like, well, we got to have zombies. So we made psychic zombies who wanted to eat brains as a way of healing the psychic damage to them and stuff like that. Anyway, it was very cool. It was just off kilter enough that it kind of took the standard Apocalypse World game, which is kind of more Mad Maxy, and twisted it just enough to make it really interesting and kind of weird.
Sounds awesome. And that was pre-Fury Road, so
it was.
You didn't have that to steal off of. Awesome. Cool. Well, hey man, let's go read a Sitch.
Okay.
Read a Sitch. Hey Ian, I understand you want to talk a little bit about initiative. How do you see initiative working in Apocalypse World or not working?
I think that it actually kind of needs to be taken by a case-by-case basis. And this seems kind of odd to have a weird bugbear about it, but it really struck me during Dungeon World, right? Which I really like Dungeon World, but I've always had a problem with the combat in that it's very closely mirrors what we would think of as traditional Dungeons and Dragons combat, just kind of translated over to an Apocalypse World style game. But it does this weird thing where there's no initiative, right? Just like there's not really an initiative in Apocalypse World, where it's just kind of what makes narrative sense.
Right.
And that kind of, it did two things at my table. So like I said, my regular group, we did a pretty decent Dungeon World campaign. And like I said, my group comes from more traditional games. But even though they'd had experience with Apocalypse World and kind of the more freeform nature of what order people go in, they really couldn't reconcile the two, right? I could tell that they were having problems. And I don't think, by the way, this is just limited to Powered by the Apocalypse games. I think that Marvel Heroic really when that was out, that really confused people because it was this idea that there was comic book logic but it didn't really formulate that, right? It didn't really codify that. It was just well, you know what we're talking about, right? There's an assumption that we are emulating this fiction. We don't really have an initiative system where you roll or it's based on stats or anything like that. You'll basically know what to do. Now, I think that can work depending on the game, right? A more socially oriented game, which weirdly enough, I kind of feel like Apocalypse World is, right? I think people kind of get fixated on.
Right. I also think the Apocalypse World benefits from the fact that it's a lot more of an entire conflict resolution type of role. Not always, but generally, you're going to resolve most of the conflict in one go, so a heavy initiative system isn't as necessary. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but in Dungeon World, there were these very, very distinct moves, and it still even had hit points, right? So you roll your move, and it doesn't just give you the damage there. You then have to roll for damage, right?
Yep.
Against the hit points and stuff like that. So it just felt very odd to me. Now, as a caveat to this, right? Like, I didn't add an initiative system in Action Movie World, right? which is me criticizing this kind of, but not doing it. Now, really, this kind of boils down to the fact that I think that there is a small but kind of vital movement in narrative games, especially, but bleeding over to more mainstream stuff like the aforementioned Marvel Heroic, where people just like aren't really bothering with initiative or just kind of leaving it to, rather vague. And that just seems like a very weird movement to me. And initiative is kind of like this throwaway small thing which nobody ever talks about or thinks about. I think like we just kind of take it for granted, right? Within the RPG world is just something that's there. Even if it's just like a conceptual thing, right? Like even if it's just, who goes first, right? It's so ingrained in us to ask who, like, that question.
But wait, Isn't initiative just basically a thing to make sure that the asshole doesn't go all the time?
Right. Like, it's social mediation, right? But I also think that can tie into, like, the type of fiction that you want to tell, right? In the sense that, like, say, in Action Movie World, and, we may talk about this in a little bit, but there's a lead actor, right? A lead role in every session. So that person should be deferred to, right? So, like, even though I don't clarify it, even though I don't codify initiative, it's just kind of, in my mind, that should be obvious, right? So yeah, like I feel like it's not just social mediation, right? But it's also, ideally, it should be narrative mediation. And even though I don't know that they think about it in those terms, at least not all designers, I think that what you get is, the byproduct is that the fast person goes first, right? So that kind of fulfills the narrative role if you're doing like the hard and dirty, like, D20 plus dex or whatever, that kind of system is.
Get your D20 out of here, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, you follow me, right? Like it's, it has like this narrative byproduct, even if you're thinking of it in like these coldly mechanical terms. Not to have like a cop out, but I wouldn't mind. I don't really have an answer to that, but to like these things I've noticed about initiative. But I'd love to see kind of a renewed conversation around initiative as a mechanic and what it means both socially and mechanically and narratively at the table.
I was curious. You said you ran Dungeon World. Your guys, your group, had a question about it. How did you solve it at your table?
So I run games in a pretty rapid fire fashion, right? Like I've got 2.5 hours, right? All of us have kids, all of us have jobs. We all live like 30 minutes apart. It's on a weekday. So I'm like, I've got this much time. Essentially what it is that I would generally defer to whoever was like, I'm acting first, right? Which is the common, Apocalypse World style thing. But I would also mediate that if somebody I felt was like dominating, right? Because I've got a couple guys who are less vocal than the others. So, yeah, so it's all rather hand-wavy to say, but basically I made certain judgment calls at the table to keep people socially fulfilled, right? So that way everybody was having a good time and everybody had a chance to do their thing. That's
the unspoken way that everybody sans initiative probably plays, or every functional group.
Yeah, and I should totally add that, like, these guys didn't have like something like a blood feud breaking out over initiative or anything like that. It went smoothly.
I would hope that you would volunteer that information.
But it was something that that was rather odd, and I remember even back when I first read Apocalypse World, the two things that blew my mind when I read it was, one, there's not really an initiative system, and also the game master never rolls, right? Like I remember going to Brett and asking him and be like, is this for real? Like, I never roll and there's no initiative. This is strange to me. It seems very asynchronous, right? And he was like, no, that's actually totally how it's played. I was like, okay, all right, that makes sense.
Cool. Well, you've mentioned this Action Movie World. I'd like to go open our brains out to it. Do you mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Open your brain. All right, Ian, you've got this Action Movie World thing that you've mentioned. This is your game, I understand. So you're not in the scene, but you just like barged in with your own game. I like that. That's awesome. Crash the scene and then widen the scenes. Tell me about this thing. What is Action Movie World?
Okay, so Action Movie World, it came about because, one, I love Apocalypse World, and I think that it's just uniquely positioned to be able to allow like designers who are not necessarily great at coming up with basic systems, right? Like me, basically hackers, right?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I come from a place where I can't say that I'm like a tremendous movie buff, but I have been corrupted by Mystery Science Theater 3000 and like old creature feature hosts of the UHF days in the 80s to really sincerely adore bad action movies, right? Particularly like the VHS schlock that we got in like the early 90s in Blockbuster Video and places like that. And I have a particular read on those, right? Which is that essentially they're about physical expressions of emotion, particularly friendship, right? That basically all action movies boil down to, if you want to be cynical about it, dudes who can't cope with any of their emotions, right? Like in what we would consider a mediated way, either good or bad. And if you're optimistic about it, it's about friends or recovering friendship, right? So I wanted to make a movie which kind of modeled the action movie scene of the 90s. So in it, what you do is you play an actor. And I make that distinction between like an actor and like an action movie hero because the world is actually movies. So what you do is you play the actor, which is more or less what you would consider a normal Powered by the Apocalypse world character. You got your moves, you got your plus stat spread, everything like that.
Right.
But then what you do is that we have separate playbooks which are called scripts. And those that you have a script for every genre of action movie. So you have like a cop movie script and a barbarian movie script and everything like that.
Right.
So what you end up doing is you might play the musclehead, right, which is like the Arnold Schwarzenegger archetype. And you'll be in a cop movie. So you have your actor playbook, which has your moves like normal. And then when everybody plugs into the cop movie, everybody picks a particular move from the cop movie, right? Which is like kind of like a stereotypical thing, like it's like car chase, and there's one having to do with like police corruption or being like the cop who doesn't play by the rules. And for the duration of that movie only, and a movie is 1 to 3 sessions, and I tend to go short, like have it be a one shot. For the duration of that movie only, you have that move from the script. So then whenever that movie's over, then you move on to a different one, right? So you might do a cop movie one session, or a barbarian movie the next, or like a Street Fighter style like fighting tournament movie, the third one. So the idea is that I wanted it to be kind of like this multi-genre thing, right? Where you're not just doing like, the story I tell actually in the intro, and he will blush if I talk too highly about him, but we've already mentioned Brett. But like I was just he was my sounding board for design stuff, and I was like, man, I want to do an Apocalypse World hack where everything about action movies, like the bad action movies, is real. And he kind of off the cuff said, what would be cool is if you played actors who then were in actual action movies. And I was just like, wow, that's it, right? Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went off that. And I think it's fairly unique and cool. And we've got little mechanical doodads which I think hack it pretty extensively. Nathan Paoletta's pro wrestling game, Worldwide Wrestling, was also an influence. He kind of and I served as the editor on that game. He kind of helped codify this idea that it's not just what's good within the fiction of like, the immediate fiction, I hit a guy, he falls down, but also this idea that you have imaginary thousands or millions of people watching you, right? And that like success works on this dual way where it's like, yes, it's the immediate success of the move in fictional terms, but the success of that move can also represent how these people that you never see or interact with in the game, who are basically just part of the scenery, react to it, right? So if you do really well, it's not just that you punch that guy, that bad guy really, really hard, right? It's that the audience who is watching the movie is going, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, look at that guy punch that guy. It was so cool, right?
Interesting. Okay, you mentioned that there's some different mechanics. What have you switched up? What are the main mechanics you would say are different in Action Movie World versus Apocalypse World?
There's that stuff where you've got these kind of like dual layers of, the actor playbook and the script book, and then you kind of switch genres and everything like that. One thing that we do is that we have a lead actor, which rotates around the table, right? So like one person is the lead actor for that movie, and then when the next movie starts, he or she is a supporting cast. Now the supporting cast, let me go back. The lead actor cannot die. Okay, so we actually have a harm mechanic where we keep track of harm.
Okay,
that's not really a measure of like how hurt you are; it's how hurt you appear to be. Right? It doesn't affect you mechanically or anything like that. The lead actor is in a position where he or she will never die, okay, and is basically guaranteed success. He or she will defeat the villain, okay, at the end. The supporting cast, in the meantime, can and should die, right? And when they die, and you can die in one of two ways. If you get to 5 harm, the director, our fancy name for the game master, can say, okay, that's it. You've taken 5 harm. It's time for you to die. Or anytime, really, if you ever feel like there's a dramatic moment for you as a character to die, then you should die. And you just say, I'm dead. But you get 1 experience if you die, right? So that means that the supporting cast kind of levels up or gets more moves more quickly. What then happens is that if your character dies, then you transition to an assistant director role where you pick from a list, right? There's you could be a pyrotechnics person, an acting coach, or something like that, and you have certain responsibilities. And what you can then do is you can say, you can make scene suggestions. Well, I think that, if you and I were playing and you, say, shot at someone and missed, then I, as the pyrotechnics director, could say, you know what, it would be really cool if, there was a gas canister that exploded, behind that person that you missed. And if the people in the scene, if you agree, then what happens is that you would then take a +1 forward to your next role in the scene. Right, so it's not a way. Yeah, so
nice. I like that.
Yeah, we kind of went through several iterations of that in playtest and some rewrites because initially I was thinking, well, let's just have them have basically what amounts to game master fiat over their little section of the narrative. We decided that wasn't good because that kind of takes away character choice from the players. So instead we just were well, let's just give them a carrot. They take +1 forward if they go along with the suggestion, right? And then everybody's happy. Yeah, that's the big thing. There's also a communal move which we call camaraderie, right? So basically, whenever cool things happen, right, and you express your friendship, you've got a little camaraderie stat, which is communal, right? It's +1 to +3, and then -1 to -3, like normal.
Right.
You can make a camaraderie move, which has some mechanical doodads with it, but this is less like what we would think of as a traditional move, right? Where it's a distinct fictional action, like I shoot you, I run away. And it's more you're trying to be cool by relying on your friendship, right? So it's that moment in Tango and Cash, where at the very end they do a high five and guitars wail. That's a camaraderie move. And you can get experience or take a major bonus if you're fighting the final villain, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that those are the big ones. One thing that I do which is subtler, and I have this pretty expressly written in the rule book, is I say you really need to frame scenes aggressively, right? Because
when you say you're talking about the player of the action movie star or the director?
The director, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're running this, the idea is that you want to frame scenes very aggressively. Because like I said, more than Commando, Predator, Rambo, the air quotes good action movies, like this was far more inspired by stuff like Deadly Prey and Samurai Cop and Robert Z'Dar movies, stuff that was really bottom of the barrel. And if you watch those movies, what happens is that you will usually have kind of an extended scene at the beginning and an extended end scene, but the middle is just rapid jump cuts, right? As soon as there's a break in the action or the dialogue, it's just boom, you're gone. You'll be in a hospital 1 second, and then the next you're flying over Vietnam in a helicopter, right?
Yeah.
And so what I say is I say, really honestly, play this game in 2-3 hours on the outside. Don't make it a 4-hour game because you need to go fast, right? You need to keep players almost breathless.
Right.
If there's a narrative hole, this isn't Shakespeare, right? This is not, you're not making a Bergman film. It's cool, right? It's just make it fast. I want it boom, 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 as fast as you can possibly get, even if sometimes that makes things feel slightly odd.
I can get that. I think that is something to offer as advice for a lot of games. Now, I want to circle back to something you were talking about getting experience, because that part, it might be overstating it to say it breaks my brain, but who's getting experience? The character you're playing in that movie, or the actor that then carries it on to the next movie, the next movie, the next movie?
The actor, right? So
okay.
The actor is the permanent. Anything that happens to you, so even though harm is temporary, even though the stakes of a given movie mean that you can die or anything like that. Anything which...
Wait, your guy can't get hurt on set?
Well, so I've had people like come to me. I had a few very, very enthusiastic playtesters, and they all were like, "Hey, you know what I really want is I want rules for getting hurt on set, for paparazzi, for kind of like the Hollywood apparatus." And
right.
You know, that's something I'm considering, but I kind of didn't want to dilute the game as written quite yet. You know, I wanted to keep it kind of tightly focused on that. But no, you're totally not the first person who's like, I want some like real stakes for the actor. You know, not just.
Oh, I'm not saying I want it. I want rules raw first. I just was curious, man. Just curious.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Whatever is fictional and happening within a given movie only exists in the context of that one movie / session.
That's cool. I like that.
When you get your experience, then you'll get your move or your permanent stat, which just basically means that you have grown as an actor or you've cemented yourself kind of like in the collective media consciousness of, you know, fictional America. So,
right. So basically it's like Brad Pitt in his surfer movies versus True Romance versus Brad Pitt now.
Right. Exactly.
Nice.
You know,
okay, cool. I get it now.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite move and why?
Okay. I've got two answers which are a tie. One of them's a cop-out. The first one that's not is called Soliloquy, and it's for the Thespian playbook. And the Thespian playbook is for if you want to be kind of an action movie star who is a serious actor. Think like early Sylvester Stallone, you know, Rocky, first Rambo, right? Where he you know, was doing really dramatic chops. So you roll plus drama, which is, you know, a stat for expressing yourself within the context of your movie. But that stat kind of like doubles as something else. It's not just your dramatic chops, but it's also kind of like an insight / you know, foretelling move, right? So like you can kind of foresee the future by kind of reading the rhythms of drama. And Soliloquy lets you do that, and then you deliver a speech about the events of the movie, okay? And that lets you kind of like see what's coming. And, you know, you might be able to take like +1 forward to a scene to your next move. And what you actually have to do is you have to narrate like your character's interpretation of the events of the movie so far. And it kind of like arose out of this idea, and I can't remember who. I had a teacher at some point kind of pick at this a little bit, but we were doing Shakespeare, and what the teacher said was something to the effect of, "Well, listen, when Hamlet is giving his soliloquy, okay, or when Lady Macbeth is giving hers, is that them being at the mercy of events, right, or is that them interpreting them and then influencing them?" Right? And then is that like just happening fictionally, or is that working on this dual level where we're seeing like, you know, the artifice, right? We're seeing the actor give we know it's a play. Is this something where someone's essentially breaking the fourth wall without really doing it, right?
Gotcha.
So it's kind of this cool, you know, dual idea that a good actor through a good soliloquy can fundamentally change the interpretation of events in a movie. Now, since it's action movies and there are a lot of bad actors and stuff like that, then they can make it really bad, right? And the cop-out answer is Every Move by the Yeller, which is my favorite playbook. So the Yeller is based on this B-movie actor named Reb Brown. If you've seen the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode for Space Mutiny, he's the guy who yells a lot. If you remember the old Captain America from the late 70s or early 80s, he played Captain America there. But basically his entire motif is that he's this beefy blonde guy who can't really act worth a damn. Mm-hmm. What he does instead is he just yells, right? Like he'll yell for half a movie whenever his character gets excited, and it's absolutely hysterical. And all the moves there are based around this idea that you have to yell and that you're using basically like physicality as a replacement for the fact that you can't act. So, you know, it's all like lung capacity and everything like that. That's been one of the more popular playbooks as near as I can tell. It was the most popular one when I did like personal playtesting with, you know, the other Flatland Games staff. And like I remember the first time we playtested, it was like my brother, who's like, you know, the co-publisher and owner. And it was his birthday, so I was like, you get to be the lead. And he was like, I'm going to be the yeller, and we're going to do a cop movie. And like he was hoarse by the end of the night. Like he completely lost his voice because he was just screaming for like 2 hours. So yeah, love the yeller.
Cool. Well, this is exciting. I gotta ask you, Ian, can we get this to the table? Maybe act under fire and do this for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll run something real quick.
It is time to act under fire. Okay, let us play a little bit of Action Movie World. Ian, I am going to be playing Plussinegger is going to be my character for this.
That's good, Plussinegger. All right, so we're going to play the cop movie, okay? And we're not going to give you a cop movie move, but we're just basically going to, set the framing as a plot movie. What I always like to do, and is I think that the name of the movie is honestly one of the most important things that you can do, right? Because it's like a really quick brainstorming session, and it immediately sets the tone of what kind of game you want to do. So let's say that you're going to play the Smartass playbook, which is kind of a Kurt Russell type. We'll just say that you're a cop who is kind of like on the outs with his bosses and everything like that.
I think I can pull that off. Okay.
All right. So what city do you live in real life?
Oh, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. Well, you are now, this is set in Jacksonville, okay?
Oh, God.
What's the worst crime problem in Jacksonville, would you say?
Staying here? I don't know. I don't pay attention to local news because that means I have to watch TV. Let's see.
It's Florida. Do you just want to say it's cocaine, right? Like
it's cocaine. It's totally drug running.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Because it's Florida, and that's it. Florida in action movies is always like drug running. And
there you
like
go.
that.
I've seen Miami Vice too. So
all right. Yeah.
It's that thing.
Yeah. Okay. So like, what got you into being like a cop? Would you say?
Plussinegger, he wanted to do something right. He's a recent immigrant.
Okay.
From Austria, and he wanted to do right by his family, so he wants to protect people.
Right on. Like, adoptive country and stuff like that. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
All right, I dig this. All right, so Jacksonville, drug running, and you're playing Plussinegger, who wants to get good by protecting people as a recent immigrant.
But he's a smartass, so maybe he's a little disillusioned that he's on the outs with his boss. So,
sure.
I'm getting this. This sounds good.
Okay, let's name that bad boy. What do you reckon a good name for a cop movie, if you could make a cop action movie, would be? About drugs.
I think maybe we do something like heat related. Maybe
okay.
Like 100 degrees.
Ooh, I'd like that so much. Like 100 degrees, and like maybe it takes place like the dog days of August. I'm in North Carolina, and it's miserable here, so I'm really feeling this.
Here. So I'm with you.
Okay, so we're gonna start like in medias res. You're on a car chase, and you're chasing down some suspected drug runners, and your boss, will say he's Captain Rutger Kade.
Oh, yes.
What's your dude's name, by the way?
Oh, it's Plussinegger.
All right, Plussinegger, yeah.
Oh, that's the... Well, do I need to do the actor's name? Do I need to give...
No, you got to do both.
Oh, wow, this is like double work. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Plussinegger's the actor.
Okay.
The character's name is like Slade McCallum.
Oh, that's good. And I like that. I like that McCallum has an Austrian accent. All right, so you are like flying in your cop car through the mean streets of Jacksonville. Do you guys have like a canal or something like that there, right?
Oh, well, we've got the St. Johns River. There's a 2.5 mile long bridge over it. You think that? Can you play with that?
Yeah, no, that's totally a great set piece. So you're flying down the bridge at like 1 a.m. There's like nobody else around except for like a few, bystanders and like, clubbers stumbling home, and you're just screaming across this bridge. And you're chasing an old style like 80s Caddy, one of those like land boats in your cop car.
Oh yeah.
Kade, Captain Rutger Kade comes over the CB. McCallum! God damn it! What are you doing out there? You're supposed to be working the mall beat.
Chief, I got a guy. It's a drug runner. I'm going to take him down.
No, that's not your beat anymore. I took you off the Vice Squad.
Oh, I can't hear you. Some static.
Damn it! McCallum! Ah! And it cuts to a scene of Rutger Kade, who's like this big old, like kind of like balding, police captain, like 50s. Kind of like, what was that dude who showed his ass in the old cop show? Oh, God. Oh, I can't remember his name. He had a mustache. Oh, it's killing me. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
He kind of looks like... I might be showing my age. Like slamming down the CB. All right, you're on your way. You're still chasing this. At this point, what I might ask you, and I'll go ahead and ask you, we'll say that there's like some garbage in the streets. So just to give you the idea of a move, we'll say you have to make like a stunt move here. So when you do when you do a stunt, okay, you're going to roll either your plus muscles or your plus agility, right, based on what kind of stunt it is. And the stunt is anything from like jumping through a window to like carrying something heavy or anything like that.
Sure.
What you would do is you describe, so like there's now like a garbage can who's getting set up of like doing early runs has like dumped garbage in your way, right? And the bad guys are like beyond this garbage truck. So you need to come up with some way to navigate the garbage. So you would roll your 2d6 plus your agility in this case because it has to do with driving well.
Turns out I've got a +1 in that one, so.
Very good. Very predictable. What kind of stunt do you want to do in order to get by this?
Oh, man, let's say that we're coming off of the bridge. I kind of imagine where we're at. It's kind of near the river walk. So come off the bridge, and there's like a concrete embankment that goes up a little bit. So maybe he's going to try to bounce up that and then do the one wheel, two wheels, of course, but like up on a side. I'm hand gesturing, which is awful for radio, but going up on like a canted angle there for the car, and that'll allow him to do a stupid move around the garbage truck.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. All right, so roll your 2d6 plus 1.
All right. That is a fail. That is a fail.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Abysmal 5.
So you get to choose one. All right. You can fall. You can lose something. You can leave something behind, which is related but not quite the same thing. You hurt yourself for 1 harm. Or you can just say that I get to make a move against you.
Make a move against me.
Okay. I'm going to say that what happens is that you hit it at the wrong angle. And what actually ends up happening is like your suspension drops, but you kind of like go flying through the air in your car, okay?
Oh.
And come to like a spinning stop in front of the garbage can, in front of the garbage truck, but you're pointing the wrong direction. And your car's like steaming, right? And it's just not going to go. So what do you react to there?
Damn it! And I slam the steering wheel. And I'm going to commandeer the garbage truck.
Oh, nice. Okay, how are you going to do that? Yeah, because like the garbage truck is like pulling up right, like right in front. Like now you're blocking the garbage truck instead of vice versa. So what are you going to do to do that?
All right, so I throw my badge up. I need the car. I'm on a chase. I'm commandeering this vehicle. And I'm just going to run over my own car if I have to with this big old monster.
Okay, give me a plus magnetism roll because this would count as getting what you want.
Gotcha. Okay. Turns out I have a +1. And that one I pull off with a 9.
Okay, you get what you want, but it comes with an added cost. Okay, the garbage van, the driver says, oh shit, like, are you chasing those guys? All right, you can totally take the garbage truck, but I get to sit next to you and watch.
All right, but stay out of my way.
All right, and he leans over and like throws the door open and then gets in the passenger seat and he's
totally like the Chris Tucker character, right?
Oh yeah. He's totally into it. He's like, yeah, go. And he's telling you like, top speed and stuff like that.
Nice.
And you take off, and this garbage truck has a rocket strapped to its ass. Like it's just going. It's going like super fast. And you're gaining on this old Caddy, which for its part has also been having trouble. And the Caddy's kind of like sputtering to a stop. And you're like right next to it. So what are you gonna do there?
Take over the wheel.
Okay. All right. The guy's like, holy shit! And he's like driving from the other side, like trying not to crash. And he's kind of like reaching his foot over.
He's like, you're gonna have to switch over and don't make it weird. And then open the door. I'm gonna jump onto the Caddy.
All right. That's another stunt roll. Give me a plus agility this time.
All right. Here we go. That is a 7 + 1 and 8.
You take +1 forward, and it succeeds. Okay, and one of the things, by the way, that we do with stunts is that, like, by the wording, you can, if you were playing with other people, and I don't mean to break the flow, but I think this is kind of important, is that stunts are a big part of this. What you do is when you take a +1 forward on a successful or half successful stunt, or I'm sorry, just on a 10+, you can pass the +1 to one of the other PCs instead of yourself if you can work them into the stunt. Because we kind of found that, like, so that way if you want to do, like, the Wolverine, like, fastball special thing, right? Like, who is doing the stunt there, and who's getting, the narrative advantage, right? Like, you can't really say. It's kind of half of one, half of the other. So, yeah, okay, so, like, this is successful, and you're able to jump far, and it is successful. You get to take +1 forward to your next move, but it does leave you in a precarious position. So, let's see here. What do we think like that? Do you think, like, maybe you, like, smash through the back window?
Oh, God, please. Yes.
Okay,
that
so like,
totally happens.
You dive through the back window, with your feet. And you're beefy enough and you're wearing like combat boots. so it doesn't hurt you. And you get a +1 forward. But the thug in the back just goes, what the hell? And he grabs a knife and slashes at your arm. So you're going to take +1 harm there.
Okay.
So you're at 1 harm. But in this case, you would be the lead, right?
Right.
And you can't die. So that's where the important bit about how it's not really how hurt you are, but how hurt you appear, right?
Of course.
So, it's kind of cool to be the lead and taking a whole lot of damage and stuff like that, but still pulling through, right? So this makes you look extra heroic. One move I want to apprise you of, right, because I think that it's always important to. Oh, wait, real quick, just because I know the game. You took... I actually don't like I write things and immediately forget. But we said you had the smiling through the pain move, okay, which is for the smart assets. You're not the strongest or fastest, but you are the coolest. So when you take damage, you can immediately take a move, right? When you take harm, and you can roll plus swagger, right? Which for a smart ass would be your highest stat. In your case, it's +1. So roll them.
Sweet. So I immediately roll a move.
Yes, you do.
Any
This
move?
is basically you saying, hey, I'm too cool for you to hurt me. And in this case, you might come back with like an immediate one-liner or,
Gotcha.
look really cool, in the next scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually have something in mind. So, okay, I get a +1 on this actually, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay, sweet. So I have a +1 normally, and I get a +1
Yes.
from the previous move.
Yes, +2.
So a +2 on this one. That's a 12 +2, 14.
All right, nice. So you get to hold 2, okay? And
Okay.
you get to do one of the following. You can get an automatic 10+ on your next killer one-liner move, okay, which is a separate move, and that's a very powerful move. You can substitute your swagger for another stat for the duration of your next move. Okay.
Okay.
This would help you more if you were actually, playing like a +3 swagger character.
Sure.
You can add the points of harm you've taken so far to your next roll as a bonus.
Okay.
Or you can inspire your fellows with your unflappable nature, right, through, some smart-ass comment, and have like a +1 to camaraderie.
Since it's a solo movie, I'm going to add the points of harm to my next roll as a bonus and get an automatic 10 on a killer one-liner move. And I don't know what those are, but I have my one-liner.
Okay.
So a one-liner after he cuts my Plussinegger, I'm sorry. Slade McCallum throws up his arm and blocks it with his forearm. There's a bit of blood, and he grabs the guy by the head and screams out, "I'd like to see your license and registration!"
Perfect. Okay, excellent. So with a 10+ to your killer one-liner, you can either take +1 forward to your next roll or add +1 to camaraderie. You would almost certainly take +1 to your next roll, so you're now at +2.
Gotcha.
+2 to your next roll, right? Yes.
Very cool.
All right. So, so like in that case, I assume that you want to commit violence upon him.
Yes, I would like to commit violence.
Okay, you like punching him?
Yeah, totally punching. I imagine like grab by the back of head, shove into the headrest of the seat in front of him, kind of thing.
Yeah, like bloody his nose, right? And, like, flying everywhere.
Exactly.
All right, give me a plus muscles roll.
And that'd be a +1, but a +1 from the harm hold that I got from that really cool swagger. So here we go. That is a 6, but I get +2 to it, so that's an 8.
You actually get +3 because you're taking plus forward from the killer one-liner too.
Oh wow, that is +3, so that's a 9. Still, within the 7 to the 9, but feels better.
Yeah, it does. So you can inflict harm, but you take some too. You inflict harm, but you're driven back, or you inflict harm, but a friend is hurt badly in the fight.
Oh, I'll take some too.
Okay. All right. So yeah, like, you guys basically start trading, like slamming each other's heads into various parts of the car, right?
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. All right. So you get the better of this, and like eventually, like he passes out, and the driver, the getaway driver, turns around and says, "I give up, man. I give up. That's it. You win. I'll pull over now. Just don't hurt me, like you hurt him."
All right, pull over.
All right,
you gotta read your rights.
He pulls over and like puts his hands on the steering wheel, and he's like, "Please, just don't hurt me. You're crazy."
He'll say, "I've got probable cause here, and I'm gonna go back to the back and kick open the trunk." And that's where I thought I saw them stashing the drugs.
Oh yeah, and it's just like it's filled to the brim with like packets of Coke. There's like those classic little packages which are weirdly like baggies, but they're too big to be baggies, so they're like little plastic bricks of white stuff. Yeah, and as you're arresting the guy, you hear Captain Kade on your CB again. McCallum, God damn it, pick up the radio.
Oh, Chief. Oh, it sounds like you're coming through again. Well, you can thank me later. I got this one taken care of.
What did you find?
Oh, well, if you weren't using a flip phone, I'd send you a picture, but I just found $250,000 of uncut cocaine in the back of this guy's car. I told you.
I don't like you, McCallum, but damn it if you don't do good work. Get down to the station. We'll close it there.
That's great. Oh, man, that's funny. Oh, that's really fun. Ian, thank you so much for coming on Plus One Forward and sharing with me Action Movie World. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun, and I love chatting with people about games and stuff.
Plus One Forward is a production of the Gauntlet community and Richard Rogers. You can find us on gauntlet-rpg.com or follow us on Twitter at GauntletRPG. The games mentioned on this show use the Apocalypse engine, which is a creation of Vincent and McGay Baker. The music for Plus One Forward is from the Savage Arl Hotbed CD Gomi Daiko. The songs used are Gomi Daiko Metal version and Process. You can find more amazing tunes by Savage Arl Hotbed on their website, savagearlhotbed.com.